Dr. Plosser, you say that you do not think there should be any major changes in the Federal Reserve system. What do you think Congress ought to do to avoid another crisis such as we've just experienced?
Well, I've been talking mostly, this particular talk, I focused mostly on monetary policy issues. I didn't really talk about regulatory reform. I've spoken about that in other places, and that's a whole other range of issues about what the regulations ought to do. I sort of argued that a lot of what constitutes regulatory reform in Congress right now is a whole basket full of stuff. A lot of it has nothing to do with averting a future crisis. There's a lot of political posturing and positioning around what pet causes different people have. I do think there are two important things that are absolutely essential if we are to lower the risk of future crises of this time. One is both prior to the crisis and in the crisis, government policy actions, including the Fed, Treasury, Congress, and others. We have created what economists call massive moral hazard problems. That's what we call the too big to fail problem. We have promised implicitly that people will get bailed out. And when they have expectations that they get bailed out, they take extraordinary risk because they get all the upside and none of the downside. If we don't solve that problem, all moving the deck chairs around the ship by saying this agency's going to do this and that agency's going to do that, if you don't solve that problem, all that rearranging of the deck chairs doesn't mean a thing. It's not about who does it, it's about what we do. So from my perspective, the single most important thing, if I couldn't ask for any other thing from Congress, is that we need what many of us are calling a resolution mechanism, that no firm should be too big to fail, and we need to have a mechanism, a way of failing firms, not bailing them out, but failing. We need to have a way of doing that, of driving them into bankruptcy and resolving them without breaking up and endangering the entire financial system. There are ways to do that. It's not easy, but there are ways to do that. That is the single most important thing we can do. Because as financial firms and organizations begin to fear that they actually can fail, they will undertake less risks. They will manage their affairs differently. And we have to get to that. We have to get to the point where nobody's too big to fail. We're afraid. We're not afraid to let firms fail. And if we did nothing else except pass a piece of legislation that gave the fear of markets into these financial firms that they were not going to get bailed out, we would take a huge step towards protecting the system from the kind of crisis we have. If we don't solve that problem, we will not have solved anything. Part of the problem with that, though, is, from my perspective, and here I differ from some people, I think it needs to be a bankruptcy mechanism. It needs a way to pave the way to bankruptcy and ease the pain of bankruptcy on the system. Unfortunately, some of what is thrown into the bills in Congress, whether it be the Senate or the House, they're too vague on bankruptcy, and I'm worried that unless those sections of those bills get written correctly, they will just lead to more bailouts because it gives too much discretion to regulators and Congress to throw money at firms that they don't want to let fail. I want to reduce their choices. No one should be too big to fail, and we need to pave the way. To my mind, that's the most important thing we need to do. There's some other things we could do, and a lot of this stuff about who. You have to remember that the Fed gets a lot of blame here, and we deserve some. There were some things we didn't do very well, and we need to do them better. Absolutely. But we all missed it. All the regulators missed it, not just the Fed. The OCC, Office of Control of Currency, the biggest regulator of all. The OTS, Office of Thrift Supervision. The SEC. The unified regulator in the United Kingdom, the FSA, Federal Financial Services Authority. Here we go, authority. They missed it. all regulators missed this. It wasn't just the Fed. So we all kind of blew it. So just taking it away from one group and giving it to another doesn't solve the problem. So I think a lot of that stuff is not about really solving the problem. It's about other agendas that people have. But creating the fear of failure and sticking, incredibly committing to the financial industry that you can fail, and we will let you fail, by golly, is the most important step we can take. I just have to pick one.